Hello, I'm Diana. I'm a human geographer, and I've co-written this paper with Bervoets, who's a philosopher. Recognizing the principle that diverse research approaches, theories, and methods make a field of study more capable of addressing a wider range of questions, in this paper we set out why a person-centered approach to Tourette's can help solve certain problems and improve the empathetic basis for understanding life with Tourette's. This collaborative endeavor with Hanne de Jager, a philosopher, is theoretical, ethically motivated, and reflects views of Tourettic people with whom we've worked. You will now take over to discuss the ethico-philosophical catch-22 of Tourette.
Thank you, Diana. We all know that there was a move from psychoanalytic to biological accounts of Tourette's, and this was very noteworthy in Tourette's. We all believe that this has advantages, and I also believe that, but this neurological deficit or lack of inhibition type of approach, which has been described in philosophy, although it has key virtues, namely avoiding undeserved blame and promise of finding cures, also presents us with a number of catch-22s, and I will quickly go over them. One of them is that neurobiological explanations have been shown to be very stigmatizing in empirical research. This has been specifically replicated in Tourette's by Melina Mali. Another point, obviously, is that we don't know yet the specific pathophysiological mechanism, and that this is further complicated by epigenetic influences, which we know to be present in Tourette's. But mainly, from our point of view, this type of purely neurobiological account is at odds with the neurodiversity movement, because it is incompatible with the social model view of disability, which views disability like Tourette as maybe problematic, but also to a large extent problematic because of the stigmatizing reactions in society. So what we want to propose here is a person-centered research alternative where we shift focus from only the top of the iceberg or the visible part of disruptive tics and look at the whole lived experience. We believe that doing so can open us up to a broader set of phenomena like the ones mentioned here in recent research. So our inspiration comes from a lot of autobiographical reports that have been made by people on Tourette's, a number of named here, and two of them, specifically Wilensky's Passing for Normal, are put here on the slide. But also our inspiration is the fact that rigorous qualitative research in autism has shown to have a lot of impact, positive impact on the cognitive science side and the neurobiological research side of autism. So with that, I put it back to Diana.
Thanks, Jo. Two empirical tensions emerge from the lack of inhibition model. It cannot account for the difference in context that people find themselves in, different social environments that dictate what, how many, and how often tics are deemed appropriate. In addition, frequency and intensity of tics have been proven to differ strongly between activities, and Specterdal have argued that conditions of stress negatively affect how acutely the urge to tic is felt, and also the threshold at which one must give in. The second element is the feeling of compulsion as a sense of just rightness or not just rightness, which indicates how tics need to be performed. Also, not ticking leads to increasing urges and a growing awareness of the element that is not just right. So these tensions trouble the explanatory power of a Tourettic person's capacity to inhibit tics as a comprehensive theory of why people tic. Following a person-centered approach, in my qualitative study with 15 Tourettic adults, I have looked at the combination of context and compulsion. It demonstrates just how strongly tics can be related to one's environment. This is data that illustrates a point made by all participants, including many very particular situations and physical forms that often tend to conjure specific complex tics in the quotations on the left, and the mobile eye tracking video on the right demonstrates how tics are enmeshed with activities that coincide with patterns in the bodily surroundings. Failing to consider context and compulsion reproduces Tourette's as a pathological problem, one that is reduced to quantification of observable and mainly stereotypical face, neck, and upper torso tics by onlookers in standardized laboratory or diagnostic conditions, producing the tip of the iceberg there. Lived experience reports are thus not only reduced to secondary confirmatory evidence, it leads to erasures of the phenomena below the water level, the inherent situatedness of tics, and the interconnections between phenomena such as rage, obsessions, and tic attacks. Taking this forward is the 4E trend that Jo will discuss now.
So these situational elements that Diana has described out of her research and out of autobiographical reports fits completely with a new trend in cognitive science, which is the 4E trend, where really the focus is on the relational and situational aspects of, in this case, Tourette's, instead of something which is malfunctioning within a specific Tourettic brain. And these suggestions align with things already mentioned in the literature of Tourette being more a surplus of sensitivity. In the case of autism, it has been suggested that autism is essentially motor atypicality instead of a social deficit, as we used to believe. So with this type of background, we can try to make new sense of Tourettic sensitivity and connect to positive talents of Tourette, like spontaneity and creativity. We can also start to explain Tourette's, as people in this book, for instance, try to do in terms of basic human sensitivity and try to explain how it feels. But more than anything, it puts a neurological atypicality in a societal perspective in line with a social model of disability. And remember the phrase of Hollenbeck that Tourette is, at least in part, also a disease of the onlooker. And I won't go too much in detail about this, but this is exactly what in my participatory research for Tourettic persons asked me to do, to not just focus on tics, but really talk about the quality of life aspect of trying to pass and mask with Tourette's. And we know that felt impairment comes drastically apart from tic severity and Tourette's. And with this, I can give it to Diana.
Thanks, Jo. So what we proposed is to turn the iceberg upside down, to no longer see Tourette only from a detached onlooker point of view and focus on its pathological tics, but to also become more sensitive to the issues Tourettic people experience in their lives. This requires more research engagement with the social sciences and humanities. Clinically, this comes down to allowing the Tourettic person to decide what they find problematic and to develop a more situationally sensitive treatment.
So with that, I want to briefly circle back to the catch-22s I noted at the beginning. I won't go through them in detail, but following this research path, we can decrease stigma, we're open to integrate epigenetic findings, and most importantly, the view is compatible with a neurodiversity view of Tourette's.